public. Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste this to the event page. So many things to click.
I'm assuming you're copying and pasting the YouTube link?
I'm pasting the Hangout link in the event page.
Okay. So anybody that sees the event could potentially come right on in?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi out there, come on in.
And then now I have to go to YouTube, right? And then...
I actually do all this stuff ahead of time, but you're...
You do?
Yeah, I do.
How do you do that?
Well, we can talk about that if you like.
Okay.
You can grab these links.
I see it now. It says live now, so I have to go in there and... Okay, go ahead.
You can grab the links from that embed area on the very top that Hangout on Air host has. There's a link on the very top of the page that says host, embed. And you can grab all that stuff before you start the show. So anybody that sees the event could potentially come right on in. Someone has the player playing and we hear an echo.
Yeah, please silence your...
Okay. Hi out there, come on in.
And then now I have to go to YouTube. And
Thank you for muting that, whoever. I actually do all this stuff ahead of time. Oops, but someone's still got it playing. Yeah, I do.
How do you do that?
Well, we can talk about that. I think actually, Sherry, it might be on your end. There may be another play.
I see it now. It says live now, so I have to go in there and... Okay, go ahead.
You can... So I just muted you so you'd have some time and opportunity to try to find that little player wherever it is hanging out. But feel free to unmute yourself when you're ready. Sherry. So anyways, I'll just run with it for now. At the very beginning of a Hangout on Air, before you go live, you have the option to grab the links to the show, the YouTube link, and you can copy that and paste it in the various places that you want to do it. I actually do all this stuff ahead of time, but someone's still got it playing. Yeah, I do.
How do you do that?
And one is actually take that YouTube link, that's the play link for the show, and actually place it into a special field inside the event, which then lets it be visible to everybody and anyone that's watching from the outside. They don't have to actually be in the film strip here. And that's, I can guide you where that is, but generally it's called the YouTube URL field. Maybe we should have met before we started.
No, anyone that joins, which is the third, it was my fault because the YouTube was playing.
Right.
So it was my fault. And I went around silencing everybody.
Yeah, but it was you. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Sherry, can you go to your event itself and edit the event and then put in the YouTube URL into the YouTube URL field?
Go ahead. I put the link to the YouTube on the event page.
But that doesn't work enough. You want to put in the link to the YouTube video inside a special field so people can actually watch the video without having to come into the Hangout.
So where's the field?
If you choose, did you choose edit for your event?
Edit, no.
Okay, try that. Try to edit your event. It's right by the description or the details area.
Okay.
And then you should be able to see, I think it says more options.
Okay, wait. See, I'm getting training as we talk.
Yeah, there you go. The Hangout helper doing the helping thing.
The view event.
Yeah.
And then where is the edit?
Do you see your details area where you have text on the right side of the page?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Choose the drop down there that says edit event.
Edit event, okay.
And then there should be another one that says, I think, more options.
Event options.
Event options, okay. And then at the bottom, what's the bottom page?
Show more options.
Show more options. Click on that.
Okay, it's selected.
Okay, and now it opened up some more fields on the very bottom. You should see about 4 or 5 more fields available.
Advanced. No.
All right, when you choose Show Additional Options, it opens up more fields on the very bottom. If you scroll to the bottom of the event, you'll see them.
Oh, bottom of the event. Oh, okay. Saw it. Okay.
Right, and then you need to paste into the field that says YouTube URL.
I did.
Paste in there your YouTube link, which you copied from the embed area.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and then save it.
Awesome.
And that will then bring into the actual event itself a YouTube player, so people on the outside.
Oh, I saw it. See, that's why Ronnie is the king.
Yeah. So.
Can we invite you to all of our hangouts?
No. I mean, yes, you can invite me, but that doesn't mean I'll be able to make it to all of them. I need to snooze my notifications here so they don't bug me in the middle of our show. There we go.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure that all systems are go. I've got 2 computers going and 2 screens. 3.
So since apparently you don't do this normally this way, I'm assuming normally your Hangouts are simply not simply. It is including just the people in the film strip, and that's it, right?
No, I have people watching live from my profile.
Okay.
And also starting last week, I've been posting the link onto the event page. But now I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
people that watch without participating, they go to my profile.
Okay. This way they can participate inside the event, and it's sort of a gathering place for everybody to be here. And it's, to me, one of the best ways. If you're not, there's at least a couple different ways to do this, but to me, this is one of the best ways to bring everyone together, because you can advertise before, you can interact during, as well as after your show, all in one place, so everybody can know where to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get the party going.
Okay.
So I'm going to click on me so it doesn't keep changing as soon as I find my mouse. Okay. Well, welcome to the first anniversary of Open Social Media Initiative. We've been running these workshops sponsored by my company, Captive Touch, for a year now, every week. Religiously, we've been delivering either live interviews, Q&As, slide workshops, and I have been blessed with a really great community of my peers who agreed to come and share what they know, and some of them are actually, you can see in the film strip. And so basically I started these things because I really, first of all, my company is an education company first, and second of all, I really believe in the power of an educated consumer. I believe that unless we can really teach our clients about their craft, we really can't serve them well. So that's basically the impetus behind these weekly shows, and we are just getting started. Actually, it's been a year, and we're going to be adding more and more features. Now, for celebration of our first anniversary, I was thinking of what kind of event to have, and the only it only really made sense for me to invite Ronnie Binzer, who is the Hangout king in Google+, and I'm going to introduce you to him in a few minutes, because really when Hangout on Air became available last May, Ronnie tells me, it really changed everything for me personally, because I have a lot to say, and it just gave me an outlet to be able to communicate about my craft, which is social media. And by the way, today also marks the 2nd anniversary of Google+, so we have a lot to celebrate. Now, without further ado, I'm going to put on my glasses and center. Where are you, Ronnie? Here he is. Hi, Ronnie.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, who is Ronnie? Everybody knows Ronnie as the Hangout helper. Ronnie helps people set up and use Hangouts, both regular Hangouts and Hangouts on Air. And his background is in video, SEO, and the reason he does such a fabulous job of teaching Google Plus and HOA so well is because his background is in software training. And it just amazes me how well, when I listen to Ronnie, how well he explains everything, and he always takes the time to explain the definitions of everything. It's just hallmark of a good trainer to think of people at all different levels and explain them to them. If Ronnie offers his services for teaching you how to use Google Plus, Hangouts, and also how to use them for your business at this website, thehangouthelper.com, and he has a number of packages for you to choose from. So I'm so delighted to have you here, and I encourage our participants. I'm going to start the discussion with one basically starting question, and I encourage you to ask questions as Ronnie explains. You can either, the best way would be to type your questions in the chat box or in the comment section, and then we'll address it. And then if you'd like to add to the discussion, raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or you're going to have to unmute yourself. Okay, so Ronnie, we all that are gathering here, we love Hangouts, we love Google Plus. It's so efficient. I personally love it, like I said, because it gave me a voice. It's a great tool. And there's a lot of discussion on Google Plus about this great tool and how being on Google Plus gives us a SEO benefit. But one thing that I don't hear a lot in Hangouts, in discussions, is how do you connect your how do you connect the activities in Google Plus to business end results? Because I have heard people asking questions, especially during my Hangouts, what is the ROI of spending time on Google Plus? If I find people finding it hard to explain the value of Google Plus beyond SEO. So I was hoping if you could give us some, without mentioning any names, some case studies of your clients that use Google Plus to business end results.
Sure. One thing that, when you say beyond SEO, let me give a little framework on how I look at things, and that'll help people understand why I say things the way I do, I think. When I first started using Google Plus, I came to it from the perspective of a person that does search engine optimization. So I came in with an experience in the past of not being successful with social media. And when I say successful with social media, I mean from a business perspective. The activities that I did, or I helped my companies that I worked with do, was to try to get people interested in their products or their services using social media, and I needed to be able to document that. That was my goal. And I was not able to do that for the company that I was currently employed with at the time I first started, and then later when I did it as a consultant on the outside. I could not prove that the activity that they spent their time and efforts and resources on, say for example in Facebook, was giving them documentable evidence that it was making a difference for their business. They were simply there doing it because everybody else was doing it. And to a certain degree, there's validity to that concept. Because if you're not there, this void is going to get filled by other people, and they're going to wonder, do you exist because you're not there? So I can understand that logic, but the ability to simply document that this worked, meaning a certain product code, you say, here's a coupon. Everybody has to give a coupon code so you can track where did it come from. That was something a lot of clients that I worked with didn't want to do. They just didn't want to have this discount thing, this mentality of always having to give a discount. So it was really hard for them to document it. So when Google Plus first came out, I just started posting about video and video SEO and things, because that's what I did for a living at that particular point. And I started seeing the results show up in search, not only when I'm signed in, because I want to get a little nerdy for a second, because when you're signed in, you see more of your stuff because Google wants you to see it. But when I was signed out, meaning I was doing an incognito search, meaning I was not visibly me to Google, so they didn't know necessarily how to connect me directly to what I was seeing when I searched. That was my test, but what really made a difference for me is there was a person, and I'll mention his name because he doesn't mind. There's a guy named Mark Robertson who owns a website called Real SEO, Reel SEO. And that is sort of the industry standard website for video online video, marketing with video, those kind of things. He contacted me after 2 weeks of me doing stuff on Google Plus and asked me, Ronnie, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? And he said, you're doing something that's affecting all of the search results that I used to monopolize. You are now everywhere.
Wow.
And I thought, well, okay, there's some confirmation from someone that I didn't even tell I was doing anything. And he reached out, and he knows his stuff. He's an SEO guy. And he knows his video stuff. So I was showing up just by simply doing what I call posting on purpose in the search results. But you did ask specifically, how do we get this outside of just SEO? But I do want to point out to most people that when someone doesn't know about you yet, how are they going to find you? It's probably done through search. They start their journey of discovering where you might be through some kind of a search. Now, whether that search is on Google, it's on Bing, yes, Bing is still out there, or it's on Google Plus, right? There's going to be places where they start typing in something, and then they're going to find you. And this brings me to the next major point of usage, I think, of Google Plus. I believe a lot of people do not utilize Google Plus very well, primarily because they try to treat it like every other social environment that they've been in the past. And that is, they're looking for their friends, they're looking for people they already know, and they're trying to connect with them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that is not the best way to use Google Plus. The best way to use Google Plus is to look for what you're interested in. So instead of who you know, you want to look for what you know or what you want to know about. So I differentiate between the different networks, and let's primarily use the main comparison, Facebook versus Google+. There's a lot of things we can go into as to why that's not a valid comparison, but it's what most people do. So let's just talk about it that way. I think Facebook's about who you know. So you find the people who you know, they might introduce you to other people you get to know, and so this social thing grows for you there in Facebook. Google+, you should come in and look for what you know. Look for what you're interested in, what you already know about, and then you will find the people, the who's behind the what. But you start in Google Plus with the what question. And when you do that, that introduces you to people you never would have met. And all of a sudden, your network of people expands tremendously, and it's global. So to me, the way you start and use Google Plus the best is by starting looking for what you want to know, find out the people that are behind that conversation per se, add those people to your circles, and all of a sudden, instead of it being a place where you don't see any activity, you'll see tons of activity specifically around the things that you're interested in. So to me, that's why, or how to best use the network, and that's why it adds the most value, because it is targeted, in my mind, not based on just who, but the topics, what you're interested in. So that's enough of me talking for right now without any more questions.
Okay, so you're basically saying to come to Google Plus and search, and I'm guessing that hashtags would be the best way to go about it? Search for particular hashtags? No?
No, and I'm a fan of hashtags. I'm not saying that's the best. In fact, let's pretend you don't know how to do this. You're just a normal person. You're not an SEO person. You're not a social media person. You're just looking. And you're looking. The one I did a show, we're going to make this phrase famous because it happened last night. Peanut butter popsicles. Okay?
Yeah, I heard that.
Let's say you're interested in popsicles and you want to know what's the latest flavor. So search for popsicle flavors. Just do that. You don't have to put a hashtag. Just do your normal question. You say, where are popsicles now? Or what's the future for popsicles? Or is there a future popsicle flavor? Type that in, just like you would type in English or in whatever language you're typing, and just see what you get. You don't have to know that you need to type in a certain hashtag. Now, when you get to a certain level and you want to narrow it down more succinctly, you can start using hashtags as your searching methods. But I would not limit it to that, because a lot of people don't even know that they should be using hashtags when they make a post to help identify where that post is locked or targeted.
Okay, all right. So as someone who wants to find, I don't know, use Google Plus as a way to find business, let's say a business owner, okay,
Yeah.
because that's who we're helping.
Sure.
So they are selling ice cream, did you say? Popsicles? Ice cream?
Yeah, well, peanut butter popsicles was all I could think of at the last moment.
Okay, so peanut butter popsicles, you come to Google Plus and search for conversations around that, and you will find the people that talk about those conversations.
Sure. Because
And
here's what happens. This is why I think this thing works. This thing meaning Google Plus and search. They work so well together. It's because if I have a business that does popsicles and I work with popsicles, I am most likely going to be typing posts that are somehow related to popsicles. And I'm going to say, hey, we've got this new freezer that if the power goes out, it will keep your popsicles fresh for 5 days. You know, something like that. That's interesting to me, so I'm going to post about it. And I'll have the word somewhere in popsicles in the middle of it. So Google can see all of those words. And so when you're searching in Google or Google Plus, you're going to find those posting things. And if I, as the popsicle company owner, become popular because people like my popsicles, or they like the way I post about popsicles, that will elevate my visibility, let's say. So I will stand out more amongst the crowd. And therefore, when the new person comes in looking for the freezer tips, because they're about to buy a new freezer because their ice cream or popsicles melt, okay? So they're going to look for that, and they'll start typing, does anyone know about this, any new freezer technology for my ice cream? Then there's a good chance, even though I'm talking about popsicles, Google will figure it out and say, here's the result. What do you think of that? And then you can interact and ask me a question, and we can have a conversation, and then here's the key. The Hangouts can kick in. So that if I decide that particular person's someone that I, as a popsicle business owner, want to interact with, and they're asking me questions, I can say, hey, would you like to just do a visual hangout? It's called, a video chat. We can just do it right now. I'll click a button. And if they say yes, now all of a sudden, I have elevated this from someone just searching for a freezer to now talking to me, the owner of the business, that I'm able to find out their real needs and tell them whether I can fulfill those needs with my latest peanut butter popsicle freezer kit.
Okay, that's great. That's fine for somebody who is, let's say, has their own shop. But what if you are a marketing agency and you're basically handling the accounts of a particular business? Obviously, you'd have to go through it through the brand page.
Right.
So how would you suggest they approach the popsicle loving people?
Sure. And that brings us, we did a hangout on this just last night. The concept of a page, which is a business page, versus a profile, which is a person. And how do you work the two, and can you work both together, or should you, and those kind of things. So we did a whole 49 minutes, I think, on it last night. So the idea here that you're asking is, how can a social media agency or an advertising agency do activity on behalf of a business? And they truly, in my mind, truly only can do that effectively if they do it as a page, meaning they're a representative of the business, and you can have up to 50 different people or different sign-ins can come in and represent that page. So it's a phenomenal way to do it. Google Plus lets you do that. They also let you connect your page to its own branded YouTube channel now, so that that page, that business page, can have its own branded Hangout on Airs that will go live, streaming out to its own network in the world for free. I mean, that I like this stuff. So, anyways, so your question was, how can they do that? Primarily, they need to be a person as the page. In other words, the pages are people too, is how I like to say it. If the page interacts with a person in an efficient way, they're not going to do what people don't do. Or that's too many negatives. Here's how they should do it. They shouldn't just say, peanut butter popsicles are the best thing in the world, come see us. If they are simply broadcasting that message over and over and over again, then it's useless in my mind. That's old. That's the old way. It doesn't work anymore. What they need to do as a page is they need to look by searching for conversations about freezers or about ice cream or about popsicles. And when it's appropriate, then if someone's having a conversation saying, hey, my freezer just died, I wonder if anybody has had the same problem, how do you replace the freezer, what's a good freezer, they can go in and politely mention that they know places that have good freezers. Do they want more details? What price range are they looking for? And leave that as a question in that post, like a normal person, where they're not going to just come in and say, hey, I've got the best deal right here, come see me.
Yeah.
Okay? That's considered spammy if you get right down to it. So what a page should do is go in and act like a good person and say, ask questions, get involved, get engaged in the conversation, and then when it's appropriate and someone's actually asking you for the request that they have, then you give them the answer. That to me is the best way for a brand to engage with people if it's on a one-on-one basis. Another phenomenal way in my mind is to utilize a thing called communities, which is a topic-based environment inside Google+. A brand page can actually be an owner of a community, which means they'll have a little link that's visible right at the top where people can, once they're in the community and they see their brand pages interacting appropriately and they're happy with the way they're interacting, they can click on that link and go right to that page and see even more details specific to the brand. So bottom line, if the brand people, the agency acting as the brand, can act like real people and get invited into conversations or find the conversations and reshare it, do what you might do as a profile, but do it as the brand, then I think the brand is going to have a much better chance of making an impact and being considered a viable place to interact with rather than a spam place.
Okay. Thank you. That's fantastic. Now, communities here, I find it, I don't know, most communities that I'm part of, some of them are really good. It seemed to be a little bit hard to get it going in terms of getting people to participate. They're not as, and I don't want to compare it to Facebook, but I've been part of Facebook groups and this one.
Sure, go ahead. It's okay. I mean, everyone does. So we might as well talk.
What is the secret sauce in terms of getting a getting your community to be vibrant?
Now, the question, let me ask you the question first before I can try to address that. Are you being a person in the community or a page?
Does it matter? Is it easier
it
when you're a
does.
person?
Well, it does. To me, it does, because if you haven't established the page as a good person, meaning a good interactor, then I don't think a page has the interaction capability as a person does. So I would think if the person's building up the activity and then they invite in the page to add some authority every once in a while, that I think is going to help you build a community faster and more efficiently than if you just go in as the page alone and there's no people. If you know what I mean.
Suspicion, right? If you come in as a brand.
Yeah, if you just come in as a brand, and first off, if the brand is known, okay, so everybody knows the brand, they've already done all their millions and millions of dollars of marketing, then fine, come in as the brand and everybody knows you, they're fine. But I think what you're trying to address is this smaller business or medium-sized business that's new to this game, and they're trying to figure out, how do I make my presence a valuable one for people? I think what they probably need to do is find people, persons, profiles that like the brand and let them help promote the brand, and then the brand can come in and say, oh, thanks, shucks, that's great, and then add a little bit of extra here and there as they build up the visibility factor for that brand. So because people buy from people, they don't buy just from a brand until they get to the point where they believe in the brand and they become a reseller almost of the brand's technology, the brand's concepts. When I say reseller, they help promote it just because they love it, because they've used it and they've engaged with it and it works.
Diane, I see a lot of typing going on, so I'm gonna try to address some of them. I don't want to hog all the questions. So Diane Cobb says, love the brand pages. Only bad part is the brand page or the manager is not added to the group video chat, green room chat, which is created at the time of the HOA. live
She's
video call. Do you know
she's
what?
getting yeah, she's getting rather nerdy on you. Hi, Diane. Let me explain what that is, or try to explain what that is. When on May 15th, 2013, a little more than a month, like a month and a half ago, Google changed what are called Hangouts. They added a third component, which is this room that is not a video. Okay, prior to that, Hangouts were always video. Now they've added in a third component, which is some people call a Hangout chat. I tried to define the terms. I call it the Hangout sidebar, where you can have messaging. You can type text to each other. You can click a button and instantly be inside a video call. You can share all kinds of neat stuff. So it's the newest component to the Hangout family. And what Diane is pointing out is that the brand page can't play there. They cannot be involved. And that's a carryover from the fact that pages were not able to do Google Chat in the past, and currently pages are not actually able to be involved in this Hangout sidebar thing. And
Okay,
that's true. It's a limiter, and so she's pointing out if you're signed in as the page, you're not able to participate in that chat area, which is another reason why you might still want to be a person while you're doing this. You need to sort of split your personality a little bit.
Okay, all right. So when you said that chat is that private conversation that is going on, right? There's a before you make it into a video.
Well, yeah, and specifically, I believe Diane is saying, look, if I have 20 people that I want to bring into my live video call, called the Hangout on Air, I might have 20 people. I can't. I can only have 10 in the room, and I'm you know, you could do 15 depending on the type of account you got. But let's just say the average person only has the ability to have 10. Diane, can invite 20 people into this Hangout sidebar chat. Everybody can be talking, but only 10 of those people can come actually into the video call, and only those the people that are easily seen in that chatting area cannot be a page. In other words, a page can't be there representing the brand. A person has to be there representing the brand. So she's specifically talking about, it's a very valid use case, but it's just one that is still a bit of a challenge. I would expect that to change sometime in the future, but right now it is what she's saying.
Okay. Okay, so Mark Wang says, if you want to build brand ambassadors, you can host a community, then involve your active members in your HOAs. They may well promote those posts videos.
Yeah, and Mark Wang is actually right here in the film strip, so
yes.
he could...
Yeah, do you want to say something, Mark?
Do you want to clarify that, Mark?
You need to unmute, I think, yourself.
Yeah, in the upper right where the red mic...
Yep.
There you go.
Yep, got it. Something that I've been working with, I've been kind of experimenting with all this and haven't really started using it for my business, but I have a small community where and Beth is one of the members there. We were talking about one of the videos we did together earlier. And I kind of see the potential for that if you just build a community that might, you know, it's not necessarily focused specifically on your product or your company, but you get a community of people who are active, and then you find, you invite those people, launch an HOA, invite them as members of the community, because you can send the HOA invite and only make it for the community members, get them to respond to that event. Then after you publish that video and you have that event and all the chat and everything, those people are going to promote, you know, going to share that with their friends. Hey, I just was in this HOA with, you know, the representative from Peanut Butter Popsicles, and he's a crazy guy. We had a lot of fun, and they're going to share that. And, you know, so that's what I was trying to get at with that comment there is, you know, you can kind of bring them in to the family, so to speak, and they'll do the work for you. So.
Yeah. So Sherry, your question about how do you engage or how do you make a community more active? There's tons of different angles, but the main thing that I would suggest is as a brand, don't just broadcast your message. You've got to be engaging. That's the whole key with this social thing. And this is where I think most brands do it wrong. If you pardon the expression, you're doing it wrong. Is they simply put up a link and say, "Here's my latest post," and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And that to me works in Twitter, or it used to work in Twitter, and it might work a little bit in Facebook, but it sure doesn't, in my opinion, does not work at all in Google+. And if anything, it'll actually get you negative points. In other words, people will say, "I don't like this person." All they do is talk about their post by giving me a link. First off, I don't have any context. I don't know what the link's about. Why should I go look at it? And secondarily, they never interact with me, so why do I even need to see them here? I'm moving on. So this is a place, I don't know, you'd call it snobby or not, but if you want to do well, and you can do incredibly well on Google+, but you've got to put effort into it. If you don't put the effort into it, in my opinion, you probably shouldn't be here, because then it's more negative for you, because people will say, I don't like that brand. They don't interact with me when I ask them questions. They always force me to go to their website. Even though that might be ultimately your goal, because that's where you're going to try to convert them, you still need, if you're going to use Google Plus well, in my mind, you still need to interact with people here on the platform of Google Plus.
Okay. Les is asking, how do we get this film strip on the bottom? Do you want to, David answered him, but do you want to say something about the lower third?
Lower third versus a film. I call the little video thumbnails down on the bottom, I call that the film strip. The bottom part.
Sorry. The lower third.
We're talking about the lower third, the branding thing, or the graphics that I've got right here. There's a tool that's it's a plugin, basically. There's things called apps for Hangouts, and the one that contains this is called the Hangout Toolbox. And if you grab that Hangout Toolbox and bring it into your Hangout interface, you have the option to turn on some basic or fancier, like I made mine's a little bit fancier, graphics that can be used to represent yourself, which we call the lower third, is the technical name for that.
And apparently you can either have it simple like mine, but you can also design your own and upload it like Ronnie's and some people there.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Ray is asking. Ray, do you want to ask it yourself instead of me reading it? Unmute yourself and talk.
There we go. Sure thing. So you're talking, and I'm really happy you mentioned that it's really important to have a personal face, a profile attached to the brand, because sometimes I see many brand pages with just a logo, and I think that's a big mistake. So my question was basically, in establishing connections and relationships with potential clients, do you think it's important to actually begin that relationship as your personal profile, and then as that relationship builds, invite them back into your office, as it were? Once they ask what you do or what kind of business are you in, and at that point introduce your brand page as a part of someone that they already know.
Phenomenal question, and I would say yes and no. It's one of those, it depends, right? You knew that when you were asking.
Okay.
And the concern is, if I'm a business owner and I don't want to be known, I don't want to be seen, but I'm the CEO. I can understand that, but why are you wanting to use social, right? So if you have a representative of the business and you want them to be the face of the business, then let them be the face and let them do the profile interactions. But it's a risk for some businesses because they don't know if that employee is going to stay around, right? So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. But in the perfect world, I would say yes, show up as the person. As a person, you probably talk about other things in life besides just your peanut butter popsicles. Although it might be peanut butter and cinnamon flavored popsicles. I mean, you might have other things of interest. You might talk about your dog. I use that because I have a dog, so I reference that. So you're a real person, and people connect with people. So I do think there's value in establishing yourself as a profile, as a person, and then posting things that reposting or sharing things that you've done as the page. And so you're bringing that back into the focus of the people that have met you as a person. And then little by little, they'll start moving over into what Ray's saying, invite you into your office. And then you can transact or interact with them as the page, but I wouldn't then abandon the profile. I would keep that going. And for many businesses, they don't have the time. And that's the problem. That, when you get right down to it, that's the problem. Do you have the time to invest in all of these different places online as both a person and a page and run your business at the same time? And I would submit to you that you probably don't. So then comes the big decision. Where do you invest your time? And in my mind, your time is invested best in what's going to give you the best value for your business, which brings us back to Sherry's request, where's the ROI? Where's the return on investment? And if you are forward thinking, and I'm very biased with this, by the way, if you're forward thinking, you should be spending your time on Google. And here's the reason why. Google Plus. The reason why is I simplify it. I bring it down to the most simple statement I can say. If Google is important to your business, then look at how do you spell the words Google Plus. Okay? And that's it. For the average business person that understands search a little bit, they get it and they're going to realize, okay, this is where I need to start spending my time. Even though their main fan base may be somewhere else. They might be currently on Facebook. Did people find out about them from friends to friends to friends? Yes. So there's still value there. But are the new people looking to find you through their friends, or are they looking to find you through search? And if they're finding you through search, then you probably ought to be on Google+. And you probably ought to start learning how to use it efficiently for a business. And as Sherry mentioned, you can hire agencies, corporations that are there specifically to help you with your social media management, but they can't do that as you, the person. So Ray brings a very good point and question up, is does the person that's visible to promote this brand, are they the one that's going to be able to continue to do that? And if the planning is done appropriately ahead of time, you might decide somebody that you're hiring needs to be the face of the business because you don't have the time to do it. Let them be the profile of the person to build some momentum and then start pushing it over towards the brand. And then what I would say, if just one little caveat on the end, it's not a caveat, sort of an epilogue. If you find that it's working, then you probably ought to show up. Okay? If you find that it's not working for you, either find a different social media agency because they didn't do it right, or I'm not sure what to tell you. Most likely it's not working only because it wasn't done right, because I almost can guarantee you that if you do this right, Google Plus will work for you.
Okay. So in terms of hiring a social media agency, when you hire somebody in an agency, the way you describe it, it would be good for the agency to work closely with the person, one person at least in business, to
Sure.
give the human face to the communities. And then the social media agency would be supporting that rather than just packaging it up and handing it to them.
Right. I'd also, let me throw in, this is a definite caveat. Don't just hire any social media agency.
Yeah.
Because just because they do social media doesn't mean they do Google Plus. And if they do Google Plus well, that's to your benefit. If they do Twitter well or Facebook well, but they're new to Google Plus and they don't buy into it, there's a lot of people out there still like that.
Yeah.
Then they are not the company to buy, or not the company to work with. So this is a little tricky, honestly, because the track record might not be there for this social media agency, but they might really do a good job other places outside of Google Plus, but when they get to Google Plus, they try to treat it the same way, and it's not going to work.
Okay.
And so that's to your detriment. So it's a little bit tricky. I would just try to find a social media agency that has a little bit of proof that they've done work for other agents, other businesses in Google Plus, and they can show you how that's worked out.
That might be hard because it hasn't been around for very long.
No, 2 years is a long enough time.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
yeah. And for the early adopters, and this is odd in my mind. I still have friends that are in the marketing world, and they will remain unnamed. Okay, they still don't get Google Plus. They think it's just another platform. Why do I have to do another one? All my friends aren't there, so I'm not going to do it. And to their detriment, they are staying with that mindset, and they've lost. It's already too late for them. In my mind, it's too late in the sense that they're not going to be able to move forward, because they have this mindset of saying, this is just another place and it's not as valuable. And a lot of them are in the graphics world, and I know that because I used to be a graphics trainer, so that's why I know this. A lot of the people in the graphics world that shifted into the marketing world, they come from a different angle than the business marketing side. I mean, it's a valid portion of marketing is the graphical representation of things, but they don't have the ROI perspective that an SEO person does when they come from the marketing side. So that's, I think, where the disconnect is for a lot of the graphic branded marketers They just don't seem to get it yet. Does anyone else down here in the film strip see that, or is it just
actually Randy and a couple of 3 people have raised their hand, and I'm going to ask them to speak in the order in which they raised their hand. So Randy is the first person. Are you unmuted, Randy?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to say congratulations, Sherry.
Thank
happy
you.
anniversary.
Thank
you do a good job. I enjoy the information that you deliver.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie, because I launched a series recently on the Hangout series, and I wore out your tutorials left and right trying to prep for that. So very, very helpful, and with the help of my good buddy Ray there too. What I would like to say, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm going to err with a little bit caution on the conversation that you were just having, and that's about brands. Now, a lot of times and I would just kind of go across this panel, if we're a small agency, a solopreneur or something like there, where I am my brand, it's me. Very easy. But if you're a large agency, you know, $1 million plus or something like, or a brand, I would err with caution about putting a face out there. Now, or I would have multi-faces, because you mentioned it, and that is you always run a risk of that person getting fired, embarrassing themselves, or doing what? Unless it is Mr. John Deere and his son and his son and his son, then I would not do that, just as a outside hire representative. And another thing on that is I would say that it is very important for a brand, and as part of that is driving that brand mark into the mind of the consumer. So you want that there as much as possible. I do not disagree with what you said about the humanistic side, but you kind of find that balance there. And I totally agree with what you said about those platforms, and especially what I've learned on Google Plus is the interaction and representation. It is a little bit difficult as a solopreneur to step across to my branded page. Although I have interaction, I make sure I'm live there. But as a solopreneur or a small agency, I interact in both very actively. But that's a little bit different than Vocus or somebody like that trying to manipulate it with one face become the spokesman. I'm not saying it can't be done. I would just caution about that, because you always run a risk of tarnishing your brand when something would happen, and you need to always expect something happening. We see that unfold. And another thing on your last detail, yes, I see that, and what I've seen, and we've had multiple conversations about it. I joined Google Plus way back when. I don't think it was 2 years ago, but shortly after that when it first launched, because I was discovering all I could. And, you know, the naysayers and all that came about. And now, you know, we've talked about the people are finally kind of wising up and saying, hey, I need to do something. And they're bringing their same tactics that they use on these other platforms, and basically curating content without any kind of dialogue on it, just pushing. And the other point I was glad to hear you say about the hashtag thing on Google, and you know, you can go up there in that line and type in marketing, you can go up that line and type in social media. That's how I did it. That's how I started growing my count, and what I've seen in other platforms is people are cautious about, well, I got to qualify who follows me and who I follow and all that. I pay very little attention to people that follow me. I engage with them, you know, but I mean, there's a ton of people that follow me and digest that you know, unless I recognize them or they interact with me, I'll circle them back or something like that. But other than that, they're just trying to get the data. I'd like to hear a little bit more of what you have to say about that number, because a lot of times you'll look on Twitter and there's a ratio between followers and following, and maybe on Facebook, but in Google Plus, those ratios are typically skewed a lot higher than that.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to many of those points, but that would take the rest of the hour.
Okay.
So let me give a couple just brief replies to some of it. When Ray was asking about whether a person should be there to help start the brand, I was agreeing, acknowledging that that's important. But if it starts working, I also tried to point out that if it starts working, then you need to grow. In other words, you need to have multiple people. You need to have what Mike Elgin likes to call a deep bench, or I think it was Mike Elgin. One of those guys out there said, if you've got multiple people that are working with your business in the environment of social, have those multiple people in case one of them leaves, in case two of them have to go. And those kind of things, then your brand can continue without all of this drama, if you get right down to it. And so, and then the other, you mentioned a bunch of different points. The last one, which was the last one that you were saying?
Well, the last one had to do with the ratio of
the ratio.
People
Okay.
in your circle and out
Right.
of your, you're circling them and they're circling you.
Right. That brings up an interesting point from now again, I'm an SEO guy, so I look at the technical behind it and then I bring it into the why, or the why it matters, rather than just here's what happened. Each and every page on, or each and every profile on Google Plus has its own what's called PageRank, which is a technical term, meaning when people search, the higher the page rank, the more likely the results of that page will show up. A community has a page rank, a brand page has a page rank. All these things matter to Google, and they influence search results. The circle count, meaning how many people are in your circles that are following you. In my mind, I don't know, because Google won't tell us, but I don't know that circle count really influences page rank. So I believe it's a misnomer to think if I have 100,000 people following me, then I'm more important than someone who just has 10,000 people. However, there's the human element. The human element looks at that 100,000 people and say, oh, this guy must know what they're doing because they got 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the people, okay, will look at that number and they'll be influenced by it. I believe that Google is more influenced by who I interact with and what we talk about. So that if I interact with other Hangout stars on Google Plus, and then someone searches for Hangout information, there's a better chance they'll find me and that other person, regardless of if I have 100,000 people or 10,000 people that have circled me, because it's based on context. Mm-hmm. But because it's social, everybody wants to have more people following them and things like that. Here's the tip that I would throw out there, because there is value. I just don't think it's technically as clear-cut as most people think it is. But there is value to having more people following you. And the way I would suggest do that is find people that already have the big numbers, that are talking about the stuff you're interested in, and then go interact with them. So in other words, find the rock stars that are already here, search to find them. When you find them, be a help to them. Go +1 their content, add a comment, reshare their comments, or reshare their content, and add in usable information that makes it clear that you understand that space that they're in, and interact with them. And then you will actually get the attention of those people. And here's where I think the other part comes in, which really matters, is those people will start interacting with you, and then you interact with each other, and then all of a sudden now your visibility level has been raised, because now you're actually truly interacting with the rock stars rather than just trying to have a whole bunch of people following you. You can get a whole bunch of people following you by doing, I hope no one here is doing it, but maybe you are, doing this, what I call the circle share game.
Oh, thank you for addressing that. I hate that.
Yeah, okay. Where somebody says, hey, I got the top
Yes.
500 people that I think are the best, you should follow them, and if you share this, then I'll add you to the next circle share.
Yeah.
That's, in my mind, and it's just me, this is my perspective, and it may not be right, but I think that's a little bit
it's fruitless, isn't it?
Well, I think what I see is that typical gaming situation that occurs on a lot of the platforms, right, Ronnie?
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, and I understand what you're saying. There's not a negative on Google's part to say that, okay, Ronnie's got 40,000 people following him, and Ronnie's got, or 40,000 people have Ronnie in their circles, and Ronnie's only got 1,000 people in his circles. Those 40,000 people, in Google's mind, are legitimate data points, correct?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, in other words, you think there's bots floating around circling you?
Oh, there's a lot of Indians. In other words, there's
I got
people
those
hired.
too.
There's people hired in overseas to go around and circle people on behalf of someone else. So I don't know that it's bots, but there's people. And
Yeah.
I believe the interaction is what matters to Google. If
Well,
those people,
then
all
what
they
is the
do
reason? What's the reason to circle people? What is that reason for, other than the gaming part?
to circle people is
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
interested in what they talk about, then there's a better chance you'll see it if you've added them to your circles. I mean, it's the legitimate, realistic reason for why you would add someone to a circle. I believe there is truly, and it's not documented because none of this stuff's documented by Google. They won't tell you. But I believe that if I have, like right now, I'm somewhere around 48,000 people following me. I only am following, I think, maybe 2,500 or less than 3,000. I believe the ratio between who I follow, the number I follow, and the number that follow me actually does matter to Google. Because if you think of it this way, if I am a thought leader, there's a good chance that more people will be following me than I am following. And so I think that percentage or that ratio does make a difference. So it's not, in my mind, it's not wise to just go out and follow a bunch of people just because you think they're going to follow you back. Because then you're more level, you're going to have 10,000 you're following and then 10,000 following you. And I think that doesn't give a decent signal of authority to Google.
Well,
And that
and I'm
goes
going
with
to.
what, excuse me, Randy, that goes with what Beth has posted here. She says, I've seen people with few followers that have a higher page rank than people with more followers. So let's see what Beth has to say. Do you want to say something, Beth? You have a question?
Yeah, I did have a question, but I think some other people were before me, so I don't want to.
No, actually, you're the one after.
Oh, okay. So my question is around Google authorship and whether or not businesses can or should take advantage of Google authorship and how they would go about doing that, especially if they hire people to write their blog posts and stuff for them, so kind of ghostwriters.
Okay. I'm going to get technical for a moment and point out that Google authorship is only available to profiles. It's not available to brand
Right.
pages. Okay.
Right.
But just last night in our hangout where myself and Mark Traphagen talked about this concept, we pointed out where it appears that there's a new term that we're calling publishership seems to be starting to have some traction, even though it's not official. And in fact, even Google authorship is not official. So the idea that a person can be identified by Google as being authoritative in a certain space, no matter where they post, is what the big picture is for what authorship is. If I was a brand and I had me as a person, I would post as the brand and then reshare that post as the person and talk about the post that the brand posted, if that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense.
I think so. So the people within the company, for example, that are creating content, they have their personal profile, they set up their Google authorship and associate it with their personal profile, and then they share their posts, those posts as the company. Is that what you?
Yeah,
did I get it right?
Let's say you are posting on behalf of Sherry, okay, because you're part of the same company for right now. And Sherry has a brand page. So what Beth should do is post Beth's authored article as the page. So that's there first. And then Beth, as the person, goes to that page and reshares the article as Beth. And then Beth does other stuff.
Okay.
So you're not just posting, you're not only sharing as the only thing you do, just the things that you write as the page, but you're actually interacting as a normal person.
Gotcha. So if somebody is hired, because a lot of people are outsourcing writing today,
Okay.
so is it okay for that person that it's being authored under to create their profile, do the Google authorship, and do the same process, or is
It's not only okay, it's required now. I mean, in essence, the person that's authoring is going to have their own identity. That was the whole point of authorship. And so they might write for 7 different blogs, but the key is that they're writing it, so they get the juice. Okay? But if it's posted on the page, it's posted, the article is posted on the page, and then that person reshares it, they're adding value to what the page's information is, which will eventually come back to the page. Hopefully that made sense. Or at least a little.
It did. No, it did. It did. Thank you.
Yeah. What's muddying the waters a little, which is what we just talked about last night, is the fact that it appears that pages are now potentially going to be able to participate in this visual addition, which used to be called the author pick, that shows up in the search results. They're starting, or we saw that last night, that you're starting to actually see a branded graphic show up next to a search result in Google.com for a page, even though it doesn't have the ability to do that officially. It's happening.
Thank you.
So there was. Go ahead.
Sorry, pertaining to what you just said, because I had just saw a blog post either last night or this morning about that, and they were surmising or theorizing it was because the person in that company had a Google Plus profile authorship, and Google has somehow made the match, the connection between them and the brand.
This is also new. It's a big assumption. One would assume that, and I could agree with that assumption, but I'd like to just bring the caveat in the fact that we have no idea.
Okay. So just to wrap up the follower point or the question that Randy asked, he says that the take-home message is the more follower you have, the more you're thought of as a thought leader.
I would agree.
Okay, but there was something that it was a way of doing that in Twitter where people, they may still do that, they would go follow people, and as soon as they were followed back, then they would unfollow just to rack up their numbers. And I'm hoping that people won't start doing that on Google Plus. Or did I just give a way for them to do it?
No. I don't think. Like I'd mentioned before, the follower count, the circle count, in my opinion, is less important to Google than the interaction.
Okay.
The type of interaction and who you interact with appears to be what really affects the search results or your page rank inside Google Plus or inside Google.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mark, did you have a question? You raised your hand at some point.
I did. I wanted to. We were talking about, since we're talking about Hangouts on air, but we're talking about them as both as a business page, which I just figured out today, by the way. I used your blog post, and then the UI has changed, but I went through a few other little poodle hoops, and I managed to get two pages set up with their own YouTube channels now. So you could either do an HOA as a page, or you can do an HOA as a community. And one thing I wanted to illustrate is that, and I actually asking your opinion on this, is a social media manager in your mind going to be the same kind of person you want managing a community? Because I look at that as a community manager role, and that's actually a little different temperament. That's a different personality than your social media manager, who I would, and I'm just speaking out of my head here, just is more of a technical management type aspect, interact CRM kind of thing. Your community manager is the pal, but also the policeman for the community. So I would see that as two different roles that might translate to two different styles of HOAs. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure, honestly, that I would agree with that. I would think the person that's more the pal needs to be everywhere. In other words, I don't think the more technical person that is not able to interact with people on a personal level, I don't really believe that they have a place any longer in social media.
Oh, well, I didn't mean that they don't have any people skills.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But no, anybody is going to have to have people skills. But what I'm saying is that,
and let me rephrase, they can belong. I'm just simply saying that they shouldn't be hired to help you, because if they don't have the people skills, then they're not really going to be able to help you.
I guess I should phrase it that the social media manager, their job is going to be focused on making sure that the business content is presented, and how they do that, whether interacting with people and indirectly presenting content, or
I would
pushing it straight out.
Yeah, and it's just semantics, but I think they matter. The words matter. I would call that a content manager, rather than a social media manager, because to me, anyone that's tied in with social media needs to be people person.
Okay.
But you can have a content manager who's the SEO nerd, who understands this content needs to be connected to these keywords and we need it to go out this way. To me, that I'm calling that and maybe I'm just making up the words, but I would call that more of a content manager or a strategy, marketing strategy, rather than the social media person per se.
Okay. And I just wanted to touch on a comment Sherry said. She said, Google's only 2 years old, and I'll just point out in technology, if you're 6 months behind, you're probably dead. So if the people who are just catching on to Google Plus right now, they're the buggy whip people. So
there's still more waves, and that's a pun, but there's still more waves of people going to be coming this way. And there's still room, but the advantage is here for us that are here now, and to be able to establish ourselves as a foothold in our authority level. And that's why I don't panic that there's not more people coming. I think there's 500 million people. That's enough. I think that's plenty. And even if it's only 200 million or 250 million that are interacting on a daily basis, is only 250 million, is the word only appropriate to put next to that? I think not.
Ronnie, we started out wanting to, you talked about your own case study, but can you, without naming, mention one of your clients and how successful they were with getting business results from Google?
What I can do is I can point out that there are certain clients that are still working, trying to understand the Hangout and how that will work in their world, okay? And how Hangouts in their world, this is a bit of a struggle, and I think it's beneficial for people to know that the struggle is still going on. And there's a phone ringing over there, and I can't stop it, so it'll stop in a second.
It's not too loud.
Because otherwise I'd have to mute myself, and it's hard to talk while I'm muted.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are needing to bring people from a different environment, in this case, their main fan base is in Facebook, but this particular client realizes the future for them is in Google+. So they're trying to bring some of their people over, and they're having a struggle with that. And so what I did for them is I encouraged them. We started with Plan A, and then we are now on Plan B. We will eventually get back to Plan A, but we have to be flexible enough to realize that if the followers don't follow, you need to change your plan to get them to follow. And so what they were running into is the inability for the non-techie people in Facebook to feel comfortable coming over into Google+, because for them it seemed too technical. Okay? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a compromise place where they can still see some of this Hangout on Air activity, because this is the client base that I'm working with, is they're wanting me to help them with the Hangouts and how to integrate that. And so we're doing Hangouts on Air, and we are promoting the middle ground. And the middle ground right now is YouTube. Okay? Because the Facebook people are still comfortable using YouTube. They don't have to come over to Google Plus and figure out all the nerd stuff. They can just say, okay, I'll watch a video on YouTube. So we've shifted from encouraging people to watch their live shows inside Google Plus to encouraging them to watch their live show on YouTube. It's still promoted inside Google Plus. We still say, if you want more interaction, find us on Google Plus, and here's how to find us. But we're less pushing right now. Yeah. You got to come into Google Plus to watch it, and we're really trying to capitalize on the fact that YouTube is sort of this connector for a lot of people on the outside.
That's a great point. Actually, we had one of our shows. We had what I called open office hours, and we talked to one business owner who was trying to get people in his industry who are on LinkedIn to Google Plus or pay and things like that. And what we ended up, the idea that we came was, okay, people might not know Google Plus, but everybody knows YouTube. So YouTube is the great medium. And Beth thinks that's a great idea. And Randy would like to ask another question. And by the way, Ronnie, where can people find you in terms of carrying on the conversation? I don't really want to invite you to just another community and having to converse there. I'm glad to add you to OpenSM community, but I know you have your own community when you ask questions. What community people should join to carry on the conversation?
If you're inside Google Plus and you want to interact with me, you can just search for the Hangout Helper or search for my name, Ronnie Bincer. Or if you want to join into a specific community that talks a lot about Hangouts, I moderate 3 of them, and I am owner of one of them. The one that I'm the owner of is called Hangout Helpers. Hangout Helpers. It's just a community. You can just type that in inside Google Plus and you'll find it. You can also just go to my website if you truly are wanting to connect with me directly. Just go to thehangouthelper.com and you can look through there and you'll find me.
Okay, and Mark Wang is asking if you could add the link to, maybe if you could add it to the event page later, or
Sure, to the
that's for you, Sherry. Yeah, you can just edit your event description and put all your credits for all your people in there, and that way he gets a little plug right here on this this event, because this will be a persistent page that people can come back to watch this video through your event invite. So it'd be nice to give them a little plug right there.
Sure,
so that's what I was talking about.
Let me throw in just a little, because I'm the Hangout helper. I'm going to help a bit. The Hangouts that are taking place inside of an event are phenomenal in my mind, but there's a problem, and it's not mine, unfortunately, but I get to be the messenger of the problem. Events and Hangouts work really well together, and they also work really horribly together. It just depends on how you do it. And some of the dilemmas tie into an issue, let's say, and that issue right now is in play right now with this particular event. Is Sherry, you made this an on-air event. Okay? And it logically makes sense, but I would suggest for the future that you don't do that, because on-air events make it harder for people to get into them. They're limited in a certain way, and I don't think that was the intent. There is no Hangout on Air button inside an event, and that's the other big confusing point for most people. So what you end up doing is you build a regular event that's not a Hangout event, it's not an on-air event, it's just an event.
Okay.
Inside that event, right at showtime, you get your link from YouTube for your show, your Hangout on Air show. You can even do it before you go live. You can copy that and paste it into that special YouTube URL field, and now you've connected the event with the Hangout on Air. There are two different things, but you brought them together with that special link.
So you create an event, and then I didn't get it. Can you say that again? So you start a regular event, invite people.
Yeah, make the regular event, and the first thing you do when you post that event is invite the public. You've got to invite the public as the very first invite. Otherwise, it won't let you. Okay, so invite the public first.
I noticed that.
And don't make it on air. Don't make it a Hangout. Just make it an event that's inviting the public.
Okay.
Okay, now that's maybe a week ahead of time, or 2 weeks, or however long you want to advertise. Then, the day of the show, or the hour before the show starts, you're going to start your Hangout on Air, right? And so you're in here, you're inviting in your panel guests.
An hour before the show starts?
I do. 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes.
So you get everybody situated?
Yeah, you get the people that are in your film strip situated so that they're here, but the people that are on the outside, they're still on the event side. They can't see anything because they're not in the Hangout on Air.
Okay.
They're guests to the event, but they're not inside the film strip.
Okay.
They need to be able to participate. They need to be able to see it live. And so that's when, before the show starts, you have on the very top a thing called embed. There's a link up at the very top. You as the host, and only you as the host, have that. You can grab that YouTube URL before the show ever goes live and paste that into the comments. You can also paste it into that special field we talked about inside the event called the YouTube URL field. And when you do that, and you then hit the Go Live button, the people that are in that event room are able to watch and see it from the outside. They can interact with comments. That's how I build my activity inside events, is I use the event as a room to gather people interested in the topic. And then right before the show goes live, I paste in that YouTube URL so that when I do go live, they're able to just watch it inside that event room, and I monitor the comments that are going on inside there.
But I want to be able to record these shows, though.
It's being recorded for you automatically by YouTube. Because you're making a Hangout on Air, it's automatically being recorded. All I'm trying to do is point out, and maybe we need to do a little consulting time after this, but that's okay. I'm just trying to point out the fact that the event is one animal, the Hangout on Air is a separate animal, and you bring them together with one little field inside the event. Otherwise, they are two separate entities.
So I don't even have to start a Hangout on air or make the event and Hangout on air?
That's the confusion point. There is no such thing as an event that is a Hangout on Air event. I use it that way, but there's no button to press that says make this a Hangout on Air event.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you don't check the box that says Hangout, and you don't check the box that says on air event.
Uh-huh.
But what you do is at the time of your show, when you're starting your Hangout on Air, before you go live, you grab that YouTube URL and paste it into the special field called YouTube URL inside the event. And then you have brought the two pieces together.
Okay,
now, what I noticed,
but you still have to start a Hangout on air, right?
Starting, yes. Going
At
live,
the time of the event, right?
kind of, yes. Here's what you did. You started and went live. You hit the start broadcast button before you did all your activity.
Yeah.
Now, what that does is the very first 5 minutes, people are wondering, what are you doing? You're not talking about why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so because you're doing all your technical stuff. Well, you could have and should have done your technical stuff before you hit go live, before you hit the start broadcast button. And that's all feasible. It's all possible. I do it every single day.
Okay.
So you want to grab that technical stuff, get it all in place. Once it's all in place, then you hit the start broadcast button, and you can start your show and say, hello, everybody, let's go.
Okay.
And you're off and running.
Okay. All right.
I train people how to do this on a daily basis. I am the Hangout helper. So
okay.
I'd be happy to give you
some training, yeah.
yeah. It is a bit techy. It's a little bit nerdy, and I guess that's why I have a job.
Okay, that's good. We're all happy that you have a job. And Miles saying great information from Ronnie. One of the biggest confusions is this use of events Hangouts.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we ever get to Randy's question, or we're almost?
No. I just wanted to. And Ronnie, you said a key word. It's a show, and you need to treat it that way. So I mean, that's that prelim work and the green room and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you if you would share, and you are the Hangout helper. You talk this stuff all day long and all night long, and you do plenty of tutorials, and you engage with plenty of thought leaders that are coming up with ideas and how can I form this? How can I do that? What do you see the future of Hangouts on air? In your mind, where do you see it going?
Good question. Where I see it going is I see it improving in quality in two ways. One, in content, because more and more people are going to be using it and realizing I can make this better if I do it like Ronnie did it, or do it like Joe did it, or whatever. And so they're going to try, the bar is going to be raised, I think, as far as quality of content, meaning how do we present our information. And secondarily, I believe it's going to get better in quality technology-wise in how it presents the video feed. I believe that is going to be improving as well. And I have a lot of things I hope happens, but I think those two for sure will happen.
Okay. Well, has Ronnie seen or used one of the recent crops of Hangouts plugins for WordPress? That's a good question, Miles.
Yeah. Let me explain. Let me give it some context for those that aren't familiar. And this is just me as a trainer, okay? I like to set the stage and then I go and answer the question. So WordPress is a website used to build website. I'm sorry, it's a platform used to build websites in the most basic sense. And a lot of marketers use websites like that to promote their products or their services. And the future for them is they want to use the Hangout tool as a webinar tool to help answer questions and promote their products or services. Nothing wrong with that. Great use case. And so the idea there is they don't want to bring activity to watch the Hangout inside Google+. They don't even want it to be in YouTube. They want it on their website so that they're able to convert you to their product by the time you're done with the show. That, in my mind, is what the main use for that particular plugin is to bring traffic to watch a live show, a live webinar kind of situation on somebody's website, and to make that a little simpler there are the crop of recent, I think that's the words, yeah, the crop of recent Hangout plugins are coming out, more and more of them. I have looked at one of them, but I haven't fully embraced any of them because honestly I'm working with a developer to create our own, and it's not done yet. So I don't know what I can say appropriately on that topic.
So those plugins would work for private Hangouts, wouldn't it? Would it be useful for on-airs as well?
Well, here's the deal. If you are technologically capable of taking the embed link that is currently in a Hangout on Air and copying that and pasting it on your website right before the show, you don't need one of those plugins. Okay, in the most basic sense. If you wanted to do a lot of the work for you and a lot of the preliminary work in gathering names and emails and all that stuff that those plugins might do, then I think there's a valid point for those plugins. But if you're trying to do a private, non-recorded, non-broadcast thing, I don't have any reason or logic in my mind why you would do it on your website. I mean, what's the point? I would just invite people into an event inside Google+, or I would send them the link. First off, they can't come into the Hangout if they don't already have a Google+ account. If there's more than one person, if it's not just one-on-one, they have to have a Google+ account. So you're not reaching out to people that are not already on Google+, because it just won't work. So secondarily, with that in mind, why would you want a private Hangout going on your website? It just, to me, you just give them a link to come to your event. And this is where I primarily use events. We talk about the confusion between events. I use events every single day, probably on average between 5 to 10 times every day, to have business meetings inside events that are not publicly broadcast. This is just private meeting, and I set it up. The reason why I love it is because if the person I'm meeting with, we agree on a set date and time, and we say yes, we're going, it automatically goes to our calendars. There's a reminder. It alerts us, and now we come and we meet, and we're inside the same video Hangout. So that's all done inside Google+, and I really don't see any real value for doing that on somebody's website.
Mm-hmm. And people were looking at using it as a way of, like you said, monetizing their Hangouts. But how can you monetize a public Hangout that is being publicized everywhere, whether or not you subscribe or not?
Yeah, you've given there's a fair amount of terminology being thrown around lately about monetizing Hangouts, and I understand the concept, but I believe there's a little bit of disconnect between what's really happening. You're trying to monetize something, and you're using Hangouts to help in the process of monetizing. That, to me, is what's really going on, rather than me selling my Hangout content as a product.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I sell my Hangout content as a product every day when I do consultations. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I am truly monetizing Hangouts. Mm-hmm. So if I meet with you, and we're going to talk about how do you set up events properly so that it works well with your Hangout on Airs, I record that privately. It's not broadcast publicly. And I give that to you when we're done as part of my product. And therefore, you can review that over and over again without having to write notes. Right? So otherwise, while you're learning from me, you're scribbling notes, and you can, if you're like me, you can never read your notes later anyways.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm like that.
I make a video of the conversation, and I give that as part of my product offering. That's part of what I do, and in that sense, I'm monetizing Hangouts.
Yeah.
I don't do public broadcasts and charge money to come see that right now because it's public. And in my mind, exactly. If someone wants to pay, they can. But if they don't want to pay, they can go to my YouTube channel and watch it for free.
Yeah.
So in my mind, until Google Plus comes out with what I would like to see in the future, this limited broadcast capability, it's hard to monetize Hangout truly that way. Now there's tricks. I can have 10, 15, 20 different YouTube channels and 10, 20 different Google Plus accounts, and I can run the show over there and bring it in behind the paywall so that you can do it, and that's maybe getting a little technical, but there are tricks to try to do that because you'll never know which particular account I use for that particular show, and then the next show I do, I'll have to do from a different account, so I'm constantly moving around. So there are tricks and ways to do that, but monetizing Hangouts is one of those. It's getting more buzz, but it's, I think, a little misunderstood by some.
Okay. Miles is saying that the key advantage is to allow registration in advance, capture email for lead generation and follow-up activities. But my question to Miles is that when people can RSVP on an event on Google Plus, would they be motivated to go and register so that they have to give their email away?
The big thing, and I'll just mention it for Miles. Miles, you can fill in more gaps if I'm not doing it right. But the key is on Google Plus, when I get people to interact with me, I've got their circle information. I don't have their email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the key is email. If I want to try to get them onto an email list so I can market to them, or because they want to be communicated with email-wise, I think those plugins have a valid place for traditional marketing where I build my email list. That's the main thing. Would you agree with that, Miles? Miles,
we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Trying to.
My question is how motivated, in terms, I'm trying to think of the consumers' heads, people that are on Hangouts. When they come and become a regular user of Google Plus and they see that there are two ways to RSVP to an event, they either have to give their email away, or don't they just say, well, why don't you just set up a regular event so I can RSVP? Yes, why do I have to give you my email address? Do you run into that?
you're asking Miles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I'm learning a lot, Ronnie and all of you. I'm taking notes. It's great stuff. It is a topic that's just blowing up right now.
Yeah.
What I find, my audience typically is a business-to-business professional, and there are still tons of those people that don't even have a G+ account. And so what I saw the advantage of these plugins is, first of all, it does drive traffic if I embed the event on my website. It gives people comfortable in that business environment ability to, they're already comfortable with registering for GoToWebinar and other events that we do online. Mm-hmm. So they do that. I capture the information. I then can build systems through the plugins or otherwise to do follow-up, send them additional downloads, and market other things to them through that process. But the key piece for me is, and I think Ronnie hit spot on, it is frustrating for people to just get on a Hangout or Hangout on air. It's confusing as heck. And I think what we found is doing the embeds into the website with these plugins that take some of this mystery out of it. They're not an active participant, but they can watch the event like they could if it was GoToWebinar or Citrix, or WebEx or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I would agree. It depends on who the target is. If the target knows you already, they're already comfortable with your website, and they want to come there, then the website, I think, is a valid place to show the live broadcast. And these plug-in tools that are making it easier for the average user that's less technical to just bring all that stuff together in one place, I think that's a valid place for it, and that's why I'm helping work with a developer to develop one.
Ronnie, what's your time frame?
I'm working with a developer. There is no time frame. I even have some Hangout training products that in my mind should have been out 7 months ago, and it's still not quite out yet. So we're getting close. So time frame, I'm sorry, I don't honestly have one. You're going to know, if you get to know me, I'm real transparent. I tell it like it is. I don't sugarcoat stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's why we like you. Well, we are at right now 10:28. This is the longest Hangout I've ever had.
It's about an hour and a half so far, I think.
Yeah, and I'm sure if we wanted to keep on talking, it's going to go on forever, because we just love learning from you, Ronnie. And so I thank you very much for giving me the honor of coming to the birthday of my Hangout.
Well, congratulations. I am glad to be a guest, and I'm fascinated and liking the idea of what you do here. I think it's great.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm just trying to improve it every chance I get. So thank you, everybody saying happy anniversary, and thank you, Sherry and Ronnie. You're welcome. Thank you all for showing up. Now, what I normally do at the end of my show is give an update of the latest social media news, but since you've been here for an hour and a half, I don't expect you to hang around. I can just give my update, or if you like, you can hang around and listen to, I usually give the latest, hottest news in social media. So,
well, I think I'm gonna take my leave because I've got other appointments to run to. But thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, all of you out there watching live, as well as those here in the film strip. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Thank you, Sherry. I got to go too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great show. Bye, Sherry.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Okay, where's my screen share? Okay, so are we all seeing that, guys? Everybody?
Yep.
Yes, you can see it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, some of the latest news in social media and what they mean for you. You know that if you work in the Facebook space, you know that for the ads that you put on Facebook that have an image associated with it, and also for the banner image, there is a rule on Facebook where you can have maximum of 20% of the image to be as text. And it's always difficult to judge whether you have hit that limit or not. So Facebook has developed a tool that they made available in this URL that I'm providing here. And it gives you a grid, and you upload your file here and say show grid. And the areas in which the text is appearing, you click it, and then it'll tell you here if this message shows up and tells you what percentage of the message occupies, the text occupies. And then once you hit that limit, this text turns into red. So you know whether your image is kosher or not. So I think this is a great tool to save yourself a lot of headache and guessing game. Hootsuite, I was working with Hootsuite the other day, and I noticed this icon here that wasn't there before, and I clicked on it, and it says that Hootsuite is testing the ability to offer Facebook promoter posts. So if you post to Facebook using Hootsuite, now you have the ability to, or you might be able to, not now yet, soon you may be able to promote your posts directly from Hootsuite without even going to the Facebook page. I personally don't use Hootsuite to post on Facebook. I directly go onto the platform itself, but a lot of people do. So that may be a great tool to know, a feature to look for in Hootsuite if you do promoted posts. There is buzz. It's interesting in social media. We hear news about things that may be happening in the future, and one of them is this news by TechCrunch saying that Facebook may be bringing us the ability to do group chats or to create a chat room. So what can you do in these chat rooms? You click on this host chat, which is very similar to that Google Plus Hangout, they call it, that quotation mark, the green quotation mark at the top. So you click that and you start inviting your friends to the chat. When you start the chat, your friends see in their news feeds that you have started a chat. So if they want, they can join. They can just join, jump right in, and participate in the conversation. If you have friends that are not friends of each other, that is a great place to meet new people through your mutual friend. If there is somebody that you don't want to be in the chat, you can either restrict access to them or kick them off the chat. And again, I stress that it's just in a test phase, and I think this is just maybe another rule to encourage people to hang out within the Facebook space more so they can serve us ads. You may want to consider Facebook newsfeed retargeted ads. So what are retargeted ads? These are ads that are available through the Facebook Exchange feature of Facebook. It's a service, and basically anyone that visits your web property, you can retarget them on their news feeds within Facebook if you purchase a newsfeed retargeted ad. There is a report that came out by AdRoll. It's a retargeting agency. They studied 574 advertisers, and these people ran over 1 billion impressions of Facebook Exchange in newsfeed. So those retargeted ads were either in newsfeed, in the right-hand side, and a standard web retargeting campaign, where you target people when they leave your web property and go to other web pages. So they compared these 3 different kinds of ads, and they tested for effectiveness. The report shows that the newsfeed retargeting had a click-through rate which was 49 times higher than the right-hand side ads, that's the RHA stands for, and 21 times higher than standard web targeting. And the news feed cost per click were half of that of right-hand side campaigns and 1/5 of web targeting. So if you're thinking about running Facebook ads, you might want to take a look at this detailed report that was just released, and here's the link to it. It's a free download. LinkedIn is showing us more data, thankfully, and yesterday they published a blog post saying that they're going to let us see how many of our status updates how many people have viewed our status updates, and how many of them, how many interactions you've had, so how many likes, how many comments, and this is great. Once this shows up, then we're not really pushing out our content sort of blindly on LinkedIn. We really know whether we are getting engagement on our content. And another piece of data that you're going to show us is recently whose profile have you visited. So that sort of gives you a way to go back and retrace your steps to see how you've been interacting on LinkedIn. Again, something that may come up news in the next web reported that we may be able to soon see thumbnails of images that people post to Twitter. So if you go to the Twitter web application, and this would be your news feed, and this one on the right hand side is what you see now. So somebody would write something and then they post an image, and you don't see the image right away. You have to click on view photo to see it, and what they're testing is your ability to see a thumbnail even before you add the view photo, which is great because it sort of makes more our status updates that have images more engaging. So if you like what you heard today, either Ronnie's presentation, our main presentation, or the news, please +1 and share it. If you'd like to be notified about our future workshops or give us feedback, please follow the bit.ly feedback_SM, and I'd like to hear from you. So with that, I will bring today's presentation to an end. Again, thank you for joining us, and I hope that you join our future Hangouts in the coming weeks. Thank you very much. Bye.